there, Susan, Derek, Nathan, Fran. Take a few minutes for people to join in as we usually do. The doors of the online space, our online temple doors, have been opened, and we give some time for people to join. I do want to make sure that the audio is all right, that everyone can hear me okay, can hear me clearly. And please do let me know if you can. All right, yeah, I can hear me all right. So take a few minutes, few moments to get settled. To find a comfortable position for our body. Finding a way to place our body, to put the body down, to set the body down. So we're not using it for anything. We're not holding it up. We're not involved in some kind of complicated story that involves the body. That the body is healthy or sick or going to this place or coming from that place. But just the body as it is in this moment. And to experience that, we find a comfortable position. Find a stable position for our body. Here at the temple, it is our personal practice day, something like a rest day, you could say, but still keeping in mind this meditation practice, the teachings of the Buddha, the community that we are a part of. So there's some openness for personal practice. And rest, and we always need to have some rest in our lives. There's a teaching, a saying about what animals do when they get injured, what animals in the forest do when they have these kinds of issues that come up, and that animals have this kind of natural wisdom that we as humans often don't have. And that is, when we do get injured, when we do encounter some kind of sickness, we have to stop. We have to put the body down. We have to put the mind down. And finding our meditation position is that first step to stopping. That first step to putting the body and mind in a place of healing, in a place of stillness. So we find our meditation position, and we can then bring our mind, bring our attention onto the breath. Onto the awareness of the breath happening at this moment. breathing and being still. Breathing and stopping our involvement with any worldly activities. Also stopping our involvement with any mental activities. So mental activities may still take place. We may have thoughts, worries, narratives in our lives that continue as we sit down. But we're not getting overly involved in any of those. Just beginning to stop, to settle, to put the body down and practice letting go. This letting go is to be aware of the body, to be aware of the breath moment by moment. It's not some abstract letting go. Instead, it's a kind of picking up and staying with our meditation method. And our meditation method is our way of letting go, our path of detaching, putting down, releasing. There are many meditation methods, but one that we can always rely on, that we can always return to and be aware of in any given moment, is our breath. To be aware of the breath at this moment. To be aware of how deeply the breath goes into our body, deep down. Feeling the breath go all the way down deep into our lungs, all the way down deep into our stomach, the breath happening naturally, deeply, fully. Putting the body down, putting the mind down, just sitting here at this moment, just sitting, just breathing, just being aware. full attention to the process of breathing at this moment. Whatever clouds of thought, thinking, story, fantasy enter this open sky of our mind, we continuously return to the breath. Return to the sense of breathing deeply and being fully aware, fully present to the body and mind. It's such a rare opportunity in our lives to experience stillness, to experience this open sky, this open mind, this spaciousness in each and every breath. So when we have that opportunity, this opportunity, not to waste it, and not to be shy about going as deeply as we are able, as deeply as we can. As we experience this deep relaxation in our meditation, we balance it with deep concentration, being more and more aware, more and more curious, more and more interested as our relaxation and peacefulness deepens. center to center, moment by moment, breath by breath, completely present, completely aware, complete in every way, this moment. Throw those important thoughts right into the fire of your practice, your awareness. Practice just breathing, aware of your breath as it flows in deeply and flows out. Whether those thoughts are good or bad, whether you experience pain or pleasure, throw it all right into the fire. Direct all of those distractions, attachments, all of that energy that bubbles up moment by moment towards your method, towards your awareness of breathing, awareness of your body. we will continue our group study, our reading, our exploration of Buddha's teachings. And today, before we get into the next chapter of the teachings of Zen Master Empty Cloud, I actually read a few kind of little snippets from a Zen teacher by the name of Dogen. And Dogen, a very famous Zen master from feudal Japan or a long time ago in Japan. And these are just a few snippets of teachings about attitude. So this can help us set the mood for our continued reading. Even if you are in a high place, don't forget you may fall. Even if you are safe, don't forget danger. Even though you are alive today, don't assume you will be alive tomorrow. The mind has no fixed characteristics. Depending on circumstances, it may turn out any way at all. Even if it is painful and lonely, associate with worthy companions. Consider how you will travel the path without taking notice of slander from others, without heeding resentment from others. Everyone has great faults, and pride is the greatest fault. Prefer to be defeated in the presence of the wise than to excel among fools. If the mentality that seeks honor and advantage does not cease, you will be ill at ease all your life. Students of the way must individually examine their own selves. To examine yourself means to reflect upon how you should carry yourself mentally and physically. If the heart is not empty, it will not admit truthful words. So that's just a few words on attitude. And we are in part 11 somehow of the teachings of Zen Master Empty Cloud, and that is Chapter 5, the stages of development. Before we go on that, we'll just read the last kind of paragraph from the previous chapter. In Zen, we are not sure of too many things. We only really know one. Enlightenment doesn't come with a dictionary. The bridge to awakening is not composed of phrases. As old master Lao Tzu wrote, the Tao that we can talk about is not the Tao we mean. So the Buddha spoke in silence, but what did he say? Perhaps he was saying, from out of the muck of samsara, the lotus rises pure and undefiled. Transcend ego consciousness. Be one with the flower. There, the Buddha gave a lecture and nobody had to take any notes. So we start with chapter 5, stages of development. What stages do we pass through as we progress towards enlightenment? First, as we meditate, we may experience a moment of utter purity and lightness. We may even feel that our body is beginning to levitate, or that our mind is rising up right out of our body so that we can look down and see ourselves sitting below. These experiences are very strange to learn about, and stranger still to experience. What is the strangest of all is that so many people experience them. Second, we may experience a state of egoless purity, in which we merely witness the objects and events of our environment without being in any way affected by them. Sensory data do not reach us. We remain as unaffected by events around us as a stone resting in water. Whenever we reach this state, we should strive to remain aware and alert and conscious of the experience. So meditation is never a passive activity. It's never something where you kind of zone out and you're doing the right meditation. It's always active. It's always engaged. And sometimes you may come into these states where you're kind of head over heels in practicing. But this will be a state of engagement and aliveness. It won't have any sense of sleepiness or dullness to it. Any kind of progress in meditation is progress in awareness, brightness, clarity, presence. It's never to experience like a foggy kind of state, even though it may be pleasurable. Third, we may hear a great clap of thunder. Also, that's not to say you can enjoy that pleasurable experience. You can enjoy the experience you're having, but you want to remain alert and aware. Continue to, and the way to do that is to have that relationship with your method. So you're not in the muck, you're not in the fog of this quite lovely, wonderful experience, but you have this high beam of awareness that's guiding you through the fog. And it might be very pleasurable and sometimes be very scary and destabilizing. So that's why you hold on to the method, and the method will protect you. The method will keep you away from more problematic states. Third, we may hear a great clap of thunder, which nobody else hears. Yet we could swear it shook the entire house. Or the sound we alone hear may be like the buzzing of a bee or the note of a distant trumpet. These auditory experiences would be very unusual to the average person, but to the person who practices Zen, they are quite ordinary. Whenever we have a strange, inexplicable experience, a vision perhaps, we should discuss it with a teacher and not with others who may mislead out of ignorance or malice. Too often, a Zen practitioner who hasn't been able to get anywhere in their own practice will denigrate the experience of someone else. What should we do when we can't meditate at all? When we sit down and experience only restlessness? We should approach ourselves gently as if we were children. If a child were learning to play a musical instrument, they would not be taught musical theory and notation and the particulars of their instrument. They would, and an entire composition all at once. No, a child would be taught incrementally, with short instruction sessions and short practice sessions. This is the best way. An accomplished musician can easily practice 8 hours each day, but not a beginner. A beginner needs to achieve a continuing series of small successes. In that way, they cultivate patience, confidence, and enthusiasm. So I can speak from my own experience that when I first started attending meditation retreats, especially intensive meditation retreats, 6, 8, 10 hours a day for a particular period of time, my mind was just all over the map. It would get very unstable, it would get delusional, it would have, auditory hallucination or maybe visual kind of changes, but very intense and very chaotic. And that's not really, you don't have to practice like that. You don't have to jump into this hyper intense meditation retreat to get it or to make progress. In fact, like this says here, we should treat ourselves like a small child, sweet baby. You're not, sit here, do this. No, you enjoy your childishness. You enjoy your sincerity and your innocence and your beginner's mind in practicing, in showing up to be intimate, to be alive, to be connected with this experience that we're all having. For ourselves, we're having this experience. But after years of practice, after years of attending retreats and having a regular meditation practice, the most recent meditation retreat that I attended was, 6 to 8 hours a day. It's pretty intense, and also within a container. The retreat schedule is a container for your practice and for your mind. And you can make a schedule and you can do a retreat in a building, but it's the kind of people that you're around that are really setting that container, setting that standard for practice. And so this most recent retreat, it was a very good standard. It was a very tight container. And I didn't have this amazing, blissful, enlightening experience, but my mind was also calm and simple throughout all this, 6, 8 hours a day of intensive meditation. Whereas for a beginner, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be a lot of pain, a lot of difficulty, can be a lot of confusion. For someone who is coming from trauma or deeper sufferings or something like that, that stuff starts to boil up, starts to express itself, and it can be very difficult to deal with. So this teaching here is very true. A child would not be taught musical theory and notation and the particulars of his instrument, their instrument, and an entire composition at once, all at once. No, a child would be taught incrementally with short instruction sessions and short practice sessions. Consistency over intensity. It's always consistency over intensity, bringing meditation to be a part of your life. And what goes hand in hand with that, and really is the foundation of that, is bringing morality into your life. How can I be a good person? How can I act patiently? How can I recognize when I make a mistake? Not be rough and tough with myself, but recognize it and continue growing to be a more kind, more compassionate, more considerate person. Consistently, not intensively. So this is the best way. An accomplished musician can easily practice 8 hours each day, but not a beginner. A beginner needs to achieve a continuing series of small successes. In that way, they cultivate patience, confidence, and enthusiasm. Elder Older saying on the YouTube live chat, and you can ask questions there. You can say hello there. Is it possible to do a meditation retreat by yourself? It is possible, but it's particularly difficult, and it's better to do a retreat in a group with a community, so that there's this, like I was saying, this structure and this container, and this support that's so necessary when we do meditation. Because when you do meditation, you want to sleep more, you want to let go more. Um, at least for me, is very difficult when I've done solitary retreats in the past, 2 week retreats in Burma, by myself, not speaking with anyone, not talking to anyone. It's more like a fast than a retreat, is how I would phrase it. Because to fully manage yourself, you want to be watched when you're in a retreat. You want to have this kind of constant attention and constant feeling of structure. That's not just in your mind or down on paper, but lived lived experience of the people around you who are also doing it. So you can do that, um, but in general, I haven't had so much success with it. More like fasting is what I experienced. A long series of small successes are better than a short series of failures. We should set small goals for ourselves, and we shouldn't task ourselves with larger goals until we have mastered all the little ones. Beyond meditation practice, there is attitude. A beginner must learn to cultivate what is called the poise of a dying woman. What is this poise? It is the poise, and what is poise in general? Poise is the graceful and elegant bearing, the way that you hold yourself. What is this poise, this way of holding yourself? It is the poise, the way of holding yourself, of knowing what is important and what is not, and of being accepting and forgiving. Anyone who has ever been at the bedside of a dying woman will understand this poise. What would the dying woman do if someone were to insult her? Nothing. What would the dying woman do if someone were to strike her? Nothing. As she lay there, would she scheme to become famous or wealthy? No. If someone who had once offended her were to ask for her forgiveness, would she not give it? Of course she would. A dying woman knows the pointlessness of enmity, of ill will. Hatred is always such a wretched feeling. Who wishes to die feeling hatred in their heart? No one. The dying always seek love and peace. So a beginner must learn to cultivate what is called the poise of a dying woman. The dying seek love and peace. There was a time that when that dying woman indulged herself with feelings of pride, greed, lust, and anger. But now such feelings are gone. There was a time when she indulged in bad habits, but now she is free of them. She carries nothing. She has laid her burdens down. She is at peace. Dear friends, when we have breathed our last, this physical body of ours will become a corpse. If we strive now to regard this physical body as a corpse, that peace will come to us sooner. So we can all try for a moment to regard this body as a corpse, to look at our own body as being a corpse. And this body will become a corpse relatively soon. Zen Master Dogen said, "Do not expect for this life to be here tomorrow." So, how is it? What is it like when we don't expect to be alive tomorrow? Because the truth is that we might not. If we regarded each day of our life as if it were our last day, we would not waste one precious moment in frivolous pursuits or in grudging, injurious anger. We would not neglect to show love and gratitude to those who had been kind to us. We would not withhold our forgiveness for any offense, small or great. And if we had made an error, wouldn't we ask for forgiveness, even with our dying breath? Well then, if this is the great difficulty for a beginner, what obstacle does an intermediate practitioner face? Results. After they cultivate the discipline of the Buddha Dharma, they must continue to tend their garden as they await the ripening of the holy fruit. However, this waiting must be passive waiting. They cannot expect or schedule the harvest season. In farming, it is possible to estimate how long beans will take to mature or apples to ripen. But enlightenment will come when it will come. When it comes, the meditator will suddenly experience their true nature. They will also understand that their ego truly is a creature of fiction, a harmful illusion. Now, with confusion eliminated, they will become imperturbable, unable to be upset or excited, calm, and imperturbable tranquility, not possible to get excited or to be disturbed by outside situations, not possible. With confusion eliminated, they will become imperturbable. They will develop a singleness of mind, a oneness that will shine in purity and be absolute in tranquility. Naturally, when they reach this stage, they must act to preserve this diamond eye of wisdom. They must be vigilant in not allowing this ego to reassert itself, since to do so would be a foolish attempt to graft a second useless head onto the neck. Whenever we reach the egoless state of perfect awareness, we find it impossible to describe. The situation is rather like an observer who watches a fellow drink a glass of water. Was the water warm or cool? The observer can't tell, but the fellow who's done the drinking does know. If the observer disagrees, can they argue about it? No. Can we debate enlightenment with the unenlightened? No, such discussions will be futile. Chan Master Linji, Zen Master Linji, used to say, fence with fencing masters, discuss poetry with poets. A person who has reached the egoless state can communicate this experience only to someone else who has reached it. But after enlightenment, then what? After enlightenment, we experience the great bodhisattva adventure. In our meditations, we enter Guanyin's realm. This is the most wonderful world of all. But after this, the accomplished practitioner must separate themselves from Zen, graduate, so to speak, and be what they have studied to become, a person who seems to be quite ordinary, just another face in the crowd. Who would guess that this face is an original face? Who would guess that this person has been one person and two persons and then three persons and is now one person again? A person who is living out the life of the Buddha self. No one could guess from merely looking. And so the final problem the practitioner faces is actually to enter the void that beginning students like to theorize about. They must attain no mind. Instead of proceeding in any one direction, they have to expand in all directions, or as Han Shan would say, into infinity. In Chan, we also call this letting go of the 100-foot pole. Chan, which means Zen, is a slippery 100-foot pole. It is difficult to climb. But once a practitioner does find themselves sitting on top of it, what do they do next? They let go. They step off into empty space. They cannot cling to Chan. They have discovered what it means to be egoless, but now they must live out the results of that discovery. Their actions can't be deliberate and contrived. And so they achieve spontaneity and become one with reality. No need to struggle further. So gaining Zen is the difficult task when we begin, and letting go of Zen is the difficult task when we end. The woman or man or person of Zen doesn't sit atop the 100-foot pole and stare at their enlightenment diploma. They read the diploma, shout, "Cats!" and toss the diploma to the four winds. Then they jump off the pole into infinity. Dear friends, although enlightenment may be reached by entering many different Dharma doors, the Buddha, the six patriarchs, and the Chan ancestors are in agreement that the most wonderful of all portals is the door of Chan. So we can all take a moment to close our eyes, to see our own original face, original mind. In seeing, just seeing. In breathing, just breathing. In awareness of the body, just aware. As the rising and passing of thoughts, sensations, and distractions take place, return back to your breath. Return back to breathing and being aware. in hearing, just hearing, in feeling the breath as it flows in and out, just feeling the breath. Returning to this doorway, this path of awareness, openness, refreshing and restarting. Relying on the meditation method, relying on your direct experience at this moment as it is. Those thoughts, distractions, difficulties, miseries, with a gentle and open heart, just noticing, just breathing, just being aware. We can start to move our body a bit, start to stretch out if we've been sitting still. Can give our head and face a massage. there are only 24 hours in a day, and we only awake for about 12 of them. So to spend an hour in meditation practice is not a short amount of time. So when we come out of the meditation, we can move slowly, we can give the body a self massage, and to be quite tender and gentle with ourselves as we come out of the meditation practice. So someone in YouTube asked, and I'm not sure if they're still here, but they said, how to handle emotional abuse / harassment with equanimity. Well, handling the situation is not necessarily done with the practice of equanimity. Um, Maybe you need to leave that situation. You need to try to change it. You need to, I don't know the details of it, so I couldn't speak so clearly about it. But equanimity is more this ability to not label um, whatever is happening to us to be emotional abuse or harassment, but just that it's happening and that we are aware of it. Dealing with that is a different situation. Um, have compassion for the person who's acting that way, because people who participate in emotional abuse, harassment, they have a deep suffering. Um, there's no two ways about that. If people who cause suffering to others, there's one reason that they do that, and it's because they have suffering, deep suffering. Yeah, and sometimes when we're able to be more detached about a situation, so that we don't take it so much personal, but we more see it as something that is happening, we're more able to take care of it skillfully. But I will say that equanimity is not submissiveness, and it's not passivity, and even for the monks, the Buddha accept to self-defense. Whatever kind of self-defense that you want to do, as long as it's not to hurt the other person, then that's all right. So don't try to hurt the other person in that situation, but try to understand they have a deep suffering. That's why they're acting that way. And recently we've been looking at many teachings about you don't just spend time with people because it's convenient. If someone is foolish, if someone is toxic, if someone is spreading out this suffering, then you don't stay there. You have to start to make decisions to get out of that situation. Maybe you need to become a monk. I don't know. That's what a lot of people do in Asia, at least, and in the Buddhist time. If they were dealing with intense situation at home or in their social life or something like that, they come and join the Sangha. They become homeless. They become renunciate. They become a full-time yogi. Fernando says, I'm curious. I see that you have pictures of Jesus on your background. How can we make it so Zen and Buddhist teachings align or work together with Catholicism and other religions? Well, Jesus is here. We can ask him. Yeah. Oh, this is like a sign. You need to plug this in. This lights up. So it's just, it's an image, right? And for us, the Buddha is an image. Jesus is an image, and it just depends on how we relate to it. I like to say Jesus was a black man, so I don't know who this is. Maybe Jesus here is shown as an Italian man, but what was an Italian man doing in the Middle East thousands of years ago? So that's a mystery in and of itself, right? Let alone the Bible and God and all that. So I think that Jesus and the Buddha and any religion that's worth looking at is it's morality. You know, it's how can you be a good person? How can you live a good life? And that's what Jesus represents. That's what the Buddha represents. And as people who are getting involved in a spiritual path or a religious path, you don't need to be so heady about it, so high thinking, complicated thinking about it. Just pretty plainly, pretty simply, make it a part of your life to be a good person, to follow ethical guidelines and ethical ways of living in your life. And if you do that, then this introspective, contemplative, more open, balanced, simple mind that can appreciate natural beauty, can appreciate what Jesus represent, what Buddha represent, in a way that's so not wrapped up with your selfishness. Because usually, you know, being a good person means not being so selfish, being less selfish. And I think that's not always true, because sometimes we have people who need to be a little bit more selfish in terms of self-care or managing their relationships. Um, and there's probably a perspective there that's not selfish. Um, One idea is that when we allow other people to hurt us, when we allow other people to take advantage of us, firstly, we're not being compassionate to ourselves, but we're also doing a disservice to those people, because we are enabling them, we are allowing them to do unskillful things, and that's going to bring suffering onto them. So, a question here from Derek Brooks says, could you speak a little bit on the concept of a bodhisattva? I'm sure that I could. And I will utilize my phone as well to do that. So, bodhisattvas are enlightened beings, or beings who have this kind of insight, this taste of enlightenment, who have put off entering full enlightenment in order to help others attain enlightenment. There are many bodhisattvas, but the most famous is Guanyin Avalokiteshvara, and there's a whole story of Guanyin Bodhisattva of compassion, but basically it's a form of sainthood, as you would have in the Catholic Church. So who are some Catholic saints? Michelangelo, or archangels, or saint. You don't know any saints?
Yeah, Sant'Antonio.
Saint Antonio,
San Francesco.
Santo
San
Francesco,
Francisco.
San Francisco. Yeah. So there are many different saintly people, and for some of these saintly people, in Buddhism and in Catholicism as well, they basically get deified. And if it's from a long ago time enough back in history, then they become like a god almost unto themselves. They become like this higher being, this archetype of compassion. So when we see, for example, many people, when they think about the Buddha, right, they think about this big fat man, right? Big fat Buddha, have a fat belly. That's not the Buddha. The Buddha has never been depicted that way. That is a totally different person named Hotai, who was this monk from ancient China. Maybe he was real, maybe he wasn't. but that represented joy and freedom and happiness and good luck. And so there are these bodhisattvas from the past, these people from the past that have made great progress in becoming enlightened and ending their own suffering, and then they devote their lives to helping other people. So if you're basically enlightened and you're running around helping as much people as you can, people are going to start to know about it and symbolize you and create a belief about you. Like Thich Nhat Hanh, for example. We will probably look back in history and see Thich Nhat Hanh as this very powerful bodhisattva. Um, so that's some of what I can say about it, Derek. Is But it's mainly someone who puts off their own enlightenment for the benefit of all other beings, and oftentimes vows not to attain full enlightenment until rescuing all other beings, until freeing all other beings from their sufferings. And Fran C. says, how does one deal with self-sabotage if while meditating, thoughts and images present themselves that we do not want to see or feel? Um, this is important. This is a good thing to bring up. It's not so important what comes up in our mind, and there's no good reasoning for like getting involved or getting wrapped up in, oh, I really did fall off of my meditation. I shouldn't have been thinking about that, or geez, that's me that I'm having these thoughts. You don't do that. You just notice it and you restart, you refresh, you continue with your meditation practice. It's like we are exploring for the first time this cave, and we see sparkles, or we see a corpse, we see a dead body, or we see, oh, I knew that guy 5 years ago, and there's his dead body, or he's trying to get my attention on the side of this cave. We just notice it, and we keep going. We keep shining the light to find a deeper and deeper path in that cave. And then we find, these jewels of our peace, of our awakening, of impermanence. Um, so that whatever that thought is, it's not permanent, it just comes up and it goes away. And actually, one of the ways that we can practice meditation is to be deeply aware, to focus on the impermanence of thoughts. And so that applies to what you're speaking about here, Fran. Um, those thoughts are not permanent. And it's very curious when we think of it that way, because a thought comes up and it's quite important, right? And then maybe we remember the past few thoughts we had, or we have a few big thoughts, a few big memories that we've had in the past, something like that. But moment by moment, even those big memories, whatever, they're just disappearing. They're just passing away. And then sometimes they come up and they're going to pass away again. What thought were you having 5 thoughts ago? It's a ridiculous question. No one can answer that kind of question unless you're repeating a mantra, for example, Ami Tofo, Ami Tofo, Ami Tofo, Ami Tofo. And if you're doing that very well, then, oh, what was my thought 5 thoughts ago? It was Ami Tofo. So it's not too important. You don't have to worry too much about any particular thought that comes up outside of being very compassionate, patient, gentle, and not to get yourself worked up. There's no meditation practice, at least in Buddhism, where we're trying to get ourselves worked up and we're going to have a special state, or we're going to trip out and have we found like a special avenue for our meditation or something, and now we're starting to have a trip. That's not a correct way to meditate. You'll just get yourself worked up. You'll just get yourself confused. So simple, calm, relax, and the main practice in our meditation is always relaxing, calming, settling. So maybe you need to lay down on the floor. Maybe you have a nice bathtub in your home. I don't know. Someone here has a nice bathtub in their home, but maybe you're doing meditation. You're starting to really get serious about it, and then you say, this is getting a little bit heavy. Time to go take a hot bath. right? So it's all about relaxing and calming and healing and refreshing, simplifying the mind. We're not getting into some kind of intense state. So, how does one deal with self sabotage? Practice no self. Practice to just restart, to just refresh, to rely on the breath, on being aware, on the sensations. When you rub your fingers together, you can rely on that. Go for a walk, relax. Don't hold on so strongly to this self identity. It's not really that important. And the times of greatest peace and the times of greatest relaxation, I find, are when we are able to really connect with and recognize that it's not that important. This big self identity, this chasing after desire and trying to avoid things. It's not something to get worked up about. So I hope that can help, Fran. So practice no self, just breathing and relaxing.
So one thing that you have said, I think, about this topic in the past, what has been very helpful for me in this perspective, because sometimes it's very easy to be objective with your thoughts if they're just small thoughts, like, oh, I would like to eat this and this after, or my friend told me that, okay, I don't care, you can continue once you realize it. But if it's something really heavy, a heavy thought or self-destructive thought that is really you have a lot of attachment to, what helped me a lot was to then think to take the I out of it, to take the self out of it and just say, okay, the greedy mind has come up. So it's not me, I'm thinking this, but the mind has arisen. What was the word? It has arisen.
A greedy mind has arisen.
Defiled mind has arisen.
A mind of anger has arisen. A mind of fear has arisen. A mind of selfishness has arisen. Rather than I'm selfish or I'm like this. And usually, when we feel that heavy thought, it's just that's just your reminder, like to stop involving yourself in it and to just be aware of it. And so be patient, be aware of, especially when it's very personal and when it's very much like if you have an active social situation that you're in with a partner who's not good to you or something like that, you have to get involved, you have to do something about it. But if you start to feel very kind of heavy thought come up, your reaction, this smell is bad or this is wrong, this is right, these kinds of feelings come up, you just be patient and wait and relax. And if it's something that you really need to do something about, then a time will come for you to do something about that. But when we feel that very heavy self, this is wrong, this shouldn't be that way, I need to do something about it, um, just relax, be patient, don't take yourself so seriously at that moment, and it's definitely going to go away. The worst that we can do is feel quite angry about something and then react out of anger, and then we make a whole problem for ourselves and for other people, and then a few minutes later, we don't even care about that. We couldn't care less about that situation or anything, but because we've acted out of anger, we've caused all kinds of problems for ourselves and other people. So a lot of times it's just to be patient and wait. And if you need to say something, or if it's right to say something, then you'll certainly have time to do it. Um, Mostly patience is what we're usually we give too much effort and we too much we're too generous with like, oh, I really need to speak my mind, and we don't spend time to, okay, just be patient for now. So you don't have to worry about, depends on the person, but at least for me, I don't need to worry about like my voice isn't going to be heard, I need to speak up now. I'm sure my voice will be heard. What's more valuable is, okay, let me just be patient and see if this is actually something important to say. All right, so just about an hour and a half that we've been together here. So we can all bring our hands together. Of course, we're on YouTube today, so I can't see all of your hands, but some people here at the temple can bring our hands together, and we'll just chant this word sadhu 3 times, which means great, excellent, wonderful, good job. And we send that to ourselves and we send that to each other. Okay. Okay, thank you for joining, and see you this evening time, or in about four hours from now. And we might be having some more sessions coming up on YouTube rather than with the Discord, and also on YouTube because we're going into a period of retreat here at the temple, and to do the whole Discord and YouTube and all that, it takes quite a bit of effort and putting together of cords and cables. So we might be doing some more things through YouTube just out of simplicity and convenience. Okay, thank you for being here. See you all again soon. Bye-bye.